The sky above the prison world of Racker 9 was always red. The air was heavy and dry, and the land was covered with dark stone and fire vents. This was a place where the strong ruled and the weak were forgotten. It was not a place for kindness. Rion sat silently in the far corner of the slave yard. He kept his eyes low and his body still. Around him, dozens of slaves moved about, some fixing machines, some carrying weapons, and others just trying to stay out of sight. No one spoke unless ordered. The guards were always watching. Rion had been here for 3 years. In that time, he had learned one thing: never show strength until it matters. This place was controlled by the Sarkin Empire, a brutal alien race with gray skin, sharp teeth, and a deep love for power. Their laws were old and cruel. The worst law of all was known by every living creature in their system: to take a mate. One must kill the bondholder. The mate then belongs to the victor. It was a rule born of pride, power, and pain. Many lives had been lost because of it, and no one dared to question it. Not even the other alien species who served under Sarkin rule. That day, Rion watched the challenge take place near the arena gates. Two Sarkin warriors stood across from each other. One was young and proud, the other older but strong. A female stood to the side, eyes full of fear. The fight began with sharp blades and roars. It ended quickly. The younger one won. The crowd cheered. The female lowered her head. She belonged to him now. Rion did not cheer. He simply turned away and walked back to the section. He had seen enough of these fights. In the food line later, Rion saw her again. Mira. She was not like the others. Mira was human, like him, but she had been on Racker 9 much longer. Her eyes were sharp, and her movements were careful. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her words were clear and smart. Mira wasn't alone. She was bonded to an old alien named Goran, one of the few kind souls left in the prison. Goran was strong once, but now he walked with a limp and coughed often. Still, he always protected Mira. That night, Rion sat by the fire pits. Goran came to him. Slow and tired, he looked around, then sat beside Rion. "You are not like the others," Goran said. Rion did not answer. "You hide your strength," Goran continued. "You wait, you watch. I know your kind. You are a fighter. I fight only when needed." Rion said. Goran nodded. "A wise choice, but soon you may need to fight again." Rion looked at him. "I am dying," Goran said, voice low. "The guards don't know. Neither does Mira. But I can feel it. My time is short." Rion stayed quiet. "There's a warrior named Torg," Goran said. "He watches Mira. He waits for my end. When I fall, he will claim her." "What do you want from me?" Rion asked. "If I die before the challenge, she will be taken. But if someone else claims her first, by law, she will be safe for a time. You want me to fight for her?" Rion asked. "No," Goran said. "I want you to protect her." Before Rion could say more, Goran stood and walked away. The next morning, Goran was found dead in his quarters. The report said his heart stopped during the night. The guards didn't care. No one cried. Only Mira stood near the body, silent and still. By afternoon, Tord came. He walked proudly to Mira and declared his claim. The guards allowed it. The law was clear. But before Tord could take her, a voice rang out from the crowd. "I challenge you." It was Rayon. The yard went silent. No human had ever made a challenge like that. Tord laughed, loud and cruel. "You, a weak human, you think you can take what is mine?" "I don't think," Rion said. "I know." The guards allowed the fight. The rules of the Sarkin did not care about species, only about the challenge. The arena was set. The crowd gathered. Even the prison commander came to watch. Mira stood in chains, forced to watch as the one who stood for her life faced a warrior twice his size. Tord charged first, fast and angry. He swung with a heavy blade, aiming for Rion's neck. Rion dodged, calm and focused. He did not try to block. He used Tord's weight against him, again and again. Tord attacked, and again, Rion avoided the strikes. He moved like water, quiet and smooth. Then, At the right moment, Rion struck. A quick hit to the leg, a jab to the throat, a twist of the wriststand Tord's blade was gone. The crowd gasped. Tord roared in anger and charged again. Rion stepped aside, grabbed his arm, and brought him crashing to the ground. One final strike and it was over. Tord lay still. The arena was silent. Rion stood tall. His face was calm. The guard stepped in and raised his hand. By the law of the Sarkin, the commander said, the human is now the bondholder. Mira was brought forward. She looked at Rion, unsure of what would come next. But Rion did not speak. He simply nodded and turned away, leaving her space. And in that moment, something strange happened, something no one expected. The crowd did not cheer. They watched. They wondered, and they began to whisper. After the challenge, the prison yard became quiet. People didn't look at Rion the same way anymore. He was no longer just another human slave. Now he was something else, something the others didn't know how to name. But Rion stayed the same. He didn't walk with pride. He didn't speak loudly. He didn't claim power. Mira now lived in the same small shelter as Rion, as the law demanded. But Rion never forced her to do anything. He gave her space. He never touched her, never ordered her, never treated her like a prize. This confused everyone, even Mira. One evening, she sat across the fire from him, arms wrapped around her knees. They had not spoken since the fight. Why did you challenge him? She asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of questions. Rion did not answer right away. He watched the fire, then spoke in a quiet voice. Gorn asked me to protect you. Mira lowered her head. He knew he was dying. Yes. They sat in silence again. Only the sound of the wind outside their shelter. You didn't have to fight, Mira said. You could have stayed out of it. Rion nodded. I could have. Mira looked at him, trying to understand. Then why did you? Rion looked up, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes, something strong, but not angry, because someone needed to. After that night, something changed between them. Mira began to speak more. She asked questions. Rion answered. Some others he left alone. She learned that he came from a rebel unit that once tried to fight back against the Sarkin system. The rebels had failed, and most were killed. Rion had been captured, tortured, and left for dead. He survived by hiding in plain sight, pretending to be just another silent slave. Mira listened carefully. She began to see that Rion was not just a fighter. He was a planner, a thinker, someone who watched before moving, and he was not done yet. Rion had a plan, not just to survive but to change everything. The Sarkin guards began to notice Rion's presence. Some kept their distance, others tried to test him with insults or small orders. Rion obeyed just enough to avoid trouble, but not enough to look weak. One guard, a younger Sarkin named Vek, took special interest in Rion. He was curious, not cruel. One day, he stopped Rion near the power station. You fight well, Vek said. I fight when I must, Rion replied. Vek laughed. Strange words for a human. Rion looked at him calmly. Strange times make strange people. Instead of being angry, Vek smiled. He nodded and walked away. Rion watched him go. He knew Vek could be useful if approached the right way. In the weeks that followed, Mira helped Rion move quietly among the others. They began speaking with a few prisoners, those who had been hurt by the Sarkins, those who had nothing left to lose. There was Korn, a silent alien who had lost his family to the arena. There was Sima, a worker who knew the tunnels under the main compound. And there was Laz, a tech slave who once built codes for Sarkin defense systems. Rion didn't ask them to fight. He asked them to listen. He told them of a time when humans were free, of a dream where the law did not belong to the strong alone. At first, they were unsure, but slowly they began to believe, not in words, but in the way Rion moved, the way he stayed calm, the way he stood after every loss. One day, a new ship arrived at the prison. A commander named Durl stepped out. He was a tall Sarkin with cold eyes and a cruel smile. He called all the slaves into the yard. There's unrest, he said. There are whispers of resistance. No one spoke. If anyone is found planning rebellion, he continued, they will be crushed, and so will everyone near them. He walked past Rion and stopped. You, he said. Human. Rion looked up. You think you are special now? Rion said nothing. Durrell leaned close. Your silence will not save you. Then he walked away. That night, Mira spoke in a whisper. He knows. Rion nodded. Yes. What now? She asked. We move faster. Rion began to gather more details. Mira helped map out the guard patrols. Seema marked tunnels that could be used to move without being seen. Les found a weak point in the power core, hidden under years of wiring. The plan was not ready yet, but it was growing. And so was the danger. One morning, Rion returned to his shelter and found it torn apart. His bedding was burned. His tools were gone. Mira stood outside, eyes wide. They came looking for something, she said. Rion nodded. They're getting close. That night, he met with the small group in the lower tunnels. We have to be careful, Rion said. They are watching, Corin spoke. Then we wait. Rion shook his head. No. We prepare. We train. We stay quiet. But we do not stop. Each one of them agreed. In the days that followed, Rion returned to the arena not to fight for a mate, but to fight for reputation. He challenged a large alien warrior named Thrick, known for breaking bones in seconds. The match was fast. Rion moved with skill and purpose. He didn't kill Thrick, he left him alive, but defeated. That choice surprised the crowd. The other slaves began to whisper again. But now, it was different. They weren't just curious. They were watching. Back at the shelter, Mira gave Rion a small piece of metal. It looked useless, but it was part of an old controlled chip from the prison gates. It still works, she said. Let's help me fix it. Rion took it and smiled. You're more than you seem, he said. So are you? Mira replied, and as the night fell over Racker 9, a quiet fire burned in both of them. Not for survival, but for change. The days passed slowly on Racker 9, but something had changed. The wind felt different. The silence of the prison was no longer the silence of fear. It was the silence before a storm. Rion moved through the prison yard like a shadow. The other prisoners gave him space, not out of fear but out of respect. He had become a name people whispered in corners, a human who did not follow the laws of the Sarkin, a fighter who defeated warriors without killing them, a man who claimed a bond, then treated the girl with honor. And that made the Sarkins nervous. Commander Durrell sent more guards to watch him. They followed Rion everywhere, but they never caught him breaking rules. He worked when ordered. He trained when allowed, and he never said too much. But inside the shadows, a plan was growing. Mira worked beside Rion during the day and studied old machines at night. With Laz's help, she had learned how the prison systems were wired. The power, the gates, the alarms, everything was connected through a hidden core under the command tower. One spark in the right place, and the entire system could shut down. Still, they couldn't act yet. The risk was too high. They needed more time, more trust, more allies. Rion began speaking to others in the lower pits. He chose his words carefully. I don't want to rule, he said. I don't want revenge. I want choice. I want freedom. Not just for us, for everyone. Some didn't believe him. Some were afraid. But a few began to listen. One of them was Rook, a tall and silent alien who once led a mining team. He had seen his people punished by the Sarkins again and again. When Rion spoke, Rook looked him in the eye and said just one word. Yes, soon, small things began to happen. Tools went missing but not lost. Power failures blinked through the night, but only for a second. A guard was locked inside a storage room for 3 hours, and no one could explain how. The Sarkins knew something was wrong, but they had no proof. They punished a few workers, but it didn't stop the strange events. It only made more prisoners angry. Durrell stood on the prison tower and looked down over the yard. This is human work, he said to his second in command. Find the root and cut it. Yes, Commander. Who do you suspect? Durrell's eyes followed Rion walking near the fence. That one. The quiet one. Later that evening, Mira sat by the fire, watching Rion sharpen a metal tool. She tilted her head and asked, "Why don't you act like the others?" "What do you mean?" Rion asked without looking up. "You fought and won. By Sarkin law, I belong to you. But you never treat me like a slave. You never give orders. Why?" Rion stopped sharpening and looked at her. "Because that law is wrong," he said simply. Mira stared at him for a moment. She had seen many things in this prison: pain, pride, cruelty. But Rion was something different. He had every reason to be angry, every reason to take what he wanted. But he didn't. She lowered her voice. "What do you want, Rion? What's your real goal?" He looked into the fire and answered softly, "I want the law to break before more people do." That same night, Vec, the young Sarkin guard, found Rion near the old cargo bay. "You're building something," Vec said quietly. "I know it." Rion didn't answer. Vec stepped closer. "They want to kill you. Commander Durrell thinks you're starting a rebellion." "I'm not," Rion replied. "Not yet." Vec blinked. "What do you mean?" Rion looked at him calmly. "If you knew how many people are ready, you would not be standing here alone." Vec shifted nervously. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're not like the others," Rion said. "You ask questions. You think. That makes you dangerous to them." Vec frowned. "I'm a guard. You're a slave." "Not for long," Rion said. Nights later, a strange sound echoed through the lower tunnels, a soft, clicking rhythm. It was a signal. The group gathered in the storage room below the food hall. Rion stood before them. Mira, Laz, Ruck, Seema, Korin, and even Vec. "This is the plan," Rion said. "In 7 days, during the cargo rotation, we strike. The guards will be few. The towers will be focused on the sky." He laid out the details. Mira would trigger the power drop. Laz would open the inner gates. Rook would lead the push on the armory. Vec would disable the control room from inside. "What if they stop us?" Seema asked. "They won't," Rion said, "because by the time they notice, we'll already be inside." The group nodded. Fear was in their eyes, but also something more. Hope. The next day, Durrell ordered Mira to be brought to him. She was taken to the command tower, guarded by 2 Sarkins. Inside, Durrell stood at a high table, looking over maps. "You are the human. Female," he said. Mira nodded but didn't speak. "You belong to Gorn. Then the quiet fighter claimed you. But he does not treat you as the law allows." "Strange." Mira stayed silent. "I believe Rion is planning something," Durrell said, "and I believe you know what it is." Still, Mira did not answer. Durrell stepped closer. "If you speak, I can spare you. I can send you to another post, a better one." She looked him in the eye and replied, "I'm already where I want to be." Durrell's smile faded. "Take her back," he said sharply. Later, in their shelter, Rion sat beside Mira. "You were called in," he said. She nodded. "He offered me safety if I told him your plan." "What did you say?" "I said I was already safe." Rion gave a rare smile. "Thank you," he said. Mira looked at him, serious now. "When this begins, not all of us will survive." "I know. And if I fall, you won't," Rion said. She looked at him closely. "And if you do?" Rion paused, then spoke quietly. "Then someone else must lead." That night, across Rackanine, quiet movements began. Tools were hidden in food carts. Cables were cut with care. Weak points and walls were marked with chalk. No one else noticed. The law still stood, but cracks had begun to show. And far above, in the stars, ships moved slowly toward the planet, unaware that below them, a fire was about to rise. The days on Rackanine moved slowly, but each one brought the team closer to the moment they had waited for. The plan was clear. In 5 days, a cargo ship would land every time one arrived. The Sarkin guards focused on unloading supplies, checking trade lists, and watching the skies for pirates. For a short window, the inner parts of the prison became lightly guarded. That window was what Rion and his group had been waiting for. Inside a dark storage room, Rion stood with his team. A small light from Laz's scanner lit up the room. He pointed to a section of the wall where wires crossed. "This is the power source for the outer gate locks," Laz said. If I cut this wire during the cargo check, the backup system will think it's a power test and won't send alerts. Mira nodded. I'll disable the motion sensors along the east tunnel. That will give us a safe path to the command tower, Rook. The strong alien with arms like steel pipes said, once we're inside the tower. I'll lead a group to take the main hallway. Rion looked around the room. This must go fast, no noise. No mistakes. We strike, then move. If we stop, we fall. The group understood. They had heard stories of failed uprisings before none ended. Well, but this time felt different. Rion had earned their trust. Not through words, but by action. That night, Mira asked Rion a quiet question as they sat in their shelter. Do you believe it will work? Rion was quiet for a while. Then he answered, I don't believe in luck. I believe in people. She smiled. That's not the answer I expected. It's the only one I have, he said. The next day, small actions took place across the prison, but no one noticed them. A guard's key was copied. A door bolt was loosened. A panel cover was removed. Tiny things, small enough to be seen as normal unless you knew what to look for. Vec, the young Sarkin guard who had joined them, passed a sealed code to Mira. She opened it and read the new patrol schedule. She memorized it within minutes, then destroyed the paper. 2 guards near the fuel bay, she told Rion, but none near the control lift during the cargo hour. That's our opening, he replied. Commander Durrell sat in his tall chair inside the tower. He stared at the glowing screens, watching reports and schedules. He still felt something was wrong. To quiet, he said. His second in command, a heavy Sarkin named Brack, replied. No movement in the last week. Perhaps your fear is unnecessary? No, Durrell said. Humans are weak. But this one, Rion, he's patient and dangerous. He looked at the image of Rion walking through the yard. If he moves, I want to know first. The night before the plan, Rion met with everyone for the final time. They stood in a broken tunnel deep underground. The walls were damp. The air smelled like old smoke. Rion looked at each of them. Seema, your job is to guide the group through tunnel route. 4, no delays. Seema nodded. Rook, once inside the hallway, push forward and reach the second control door. Don't get trapped in the middle. I will open the way, Rook said. Mira and I will go to the main panel with Laz. Once we shut off their comms, they'll be blind. He looked to Vec. You know what to do. I'll disable the armory door and lock out guard support, Vec said. Rion took a deep breath. This is our only chance. If we win, we take the prison. If we lose, we never get another shot. No one spoke, but their eyes said enough. They were ready when the day came. The red sun rose behind a line of storm clouds. Thunder rolled over the black mountains. The cargo ship landed just after midday. Dust rose into the air as its engines cooled. Sarkins moved quickly, scanning supplies and yelling orders. Inside the control room, guards looked to the skies. Inside the prison, Rion's group moved. Seema led the first 5 through the lower tunnel. Mira moved to the east panel and cut the sensor link. Les began unlocking the code locks. Vec sent a false warning signal to the guard tower, forcing 2 of the officers to leave their posts. Step by step, the plan worked. Rion and Mira reached the central gate. Les turned the switch and said, now. Rion pressed a button, and the door slid open with a quiet click. They were inside. In the command tower, a silent alarm blinked. Durrell noticed it right away. What is this? He shouted. Why is the east panel offline? The tech officer stammered. It shows a power test. Maybe a system check. No. One approved a system check, Durrell growled. Sound the alert. But it was too late. In the hallways below, Rick smashed through the second gate with a metal beam. His team followed, weapons taken from the guard locker. Simon's group reached the east hall and sealed the rear doors. Les turned off the prison cameras. Vec disabled the weapons storage locks. Mira cut the emergency line. Rion moved fast and took control of the main control board. Lights across the prison blinked, then turned red. A new voice spoke through the speakers. It was Rion. This prison is no longer under Sarkin control. There is no need to fear. But if you fight us, we will defend ourselves. Durrell stood in shock. The human took the tower. Brack shouted, "Orders? Bring every guard," Durrell roared. "Crush them before they grow stronger." Back in the tower, Rion looked at Mira. "They're coming." She nodded. "We knew they would." "Do we hold this position?" Les asked. "No," Rion said. "We move forward." Outside, the prison yard turned into chaos. Some guards ran toward the tower. Others retreated. Prisoners began rising from their workstations, some confused, others hopeful. Mira watched from the window. "They're scared," she said. "Not just them," Rion replied. "Some of us, too." "Good," she said. "That means we still care." Rion gave a small smile. "Then let's finish this." And as the storm rolled in over Rackhardine, the fire they started began to spread. The prison of Rackhardine was no longer quiet. Smoke rose from broken towers. Fires burned along the edge of the armory. Alarm lights flashed red across the black sky. The ground shook as explosions echoed from the fuel bay. Rion stood inside the command tower, looking at the control screen. His voice was calm, but his heart beat faster than ever. "We've taken the tower," he said. "But this is just the start." Mira sat beside the main panel, hands flying across the buttons. She had already shut down the comms, locked the backup doors, and disabled the scanners. But now the hard part had begun. "The guards are regrouping," she said. "They're pulling forces from the upper sectors. They'll be here soon." Rion nodded. "We hold them as long as we can." In the outer hallway, led a small group of fighters. They had taken weapons from the guard station, but ammo was limited. They used old pipes, metal rods, anything they could find. The first group of Sarkin soldiers came through the west gate fast, armored, and ready for blood. Rick didn't wait. He charged first, swinging a heavy bar with both hands. Two Sarkins fell behind him. Seema and Korin moved through the smoke, pushing the attackers back. Every inch of ground was earned. Every second of delay mattered. Commander Durrell watched from the backup tower, his teeth tight with rage. "They've locked the tower doors," his officer said. "We can't send a drone strike without opening the gates." Durrell slammed his fist on the table. "This is not a rebellion," he said. "It's a disease, and diseases must be burned out." He ordered a release of the cyber beast, a massive metal creature made for control and fear. It had claws like blades, sensors for eyes, and enough strength to crush stone. "Send it into the yard," Durrell said. "Let them see what true power looks like." Back in the tower, Vec looked out the window. His eyes went wide. "They released the cyber beast," he said. Rion moved to the window. In the center yard, smoke split apart and the beast stepped through. It stood taller than a transport truck. Its legs thudded with weight. Sparks flashed from its metal joints, and it moved fast. "It's heading straight for us," Mira said. Rion grabbed a pulse rifle and headed for the stairs. "I'll stop it." Mira stood. "Not alone." Rion looked at her. "I need you here. You know the system. If they break through, we need the doors closed, the power running, the lights on." Mira opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She knew he was right. "Be careful," she said. He nodded and ran. The cyber beast moved through the yard like a storm. Prisoners screamed and ran. Some tried to fight. They were knocked aside. Rion met it near the west wall. He stood with the pulse rifle ready. He aimed at the head and fired once. The blast hit, but the beast barely slowed down. Rion dodged left as it swung its massive arm. The ground cracked where he had just stood. He rolled, grabbed a fallen blade, and ran toward the back of the machine. He aimed for the leg's small openings in the armor. He stabbed deep, twisting the blade. Sparks flew. The beast turned, now focused fully on him. Rion didn't run. He waited when the next swing came. He ducked, jumped on the beast's arm, and climbed to its back. It shook wildly, trying to throw him off. He held tight. Then, using the rifle's last shot, he aimed at a small red light near the neck. He fired. The blast hit. The beast froze. Then, with a loud crack, it collapsed. Back in the tower, Mira saw the signal light change. "The beast is down," she whispered. Everyone around her cheered. But the fight wasn't over. More guards came from the airbase, from the upper levels, from other sectors. The Sarkans were angry now. They wanted to crush the humans and their allies completely. Rion returned, covered in dirt and smoke. His arm was bleeding, but he didn't stop. Report. He said. Mira spoke quickly. We still hold the tower. Rook's team is falling back slowly. Vec is watching the north gate. Laz is trying to access the outside comms. Rion looked at Laz. Can you reach anyone off-world? Maybe, Laz said. The signal is weak, but I'm close. Try harder, Rion said. We need to show the galaxy what's happening here. Commander Durrell was furious. They shut down the beast, he said. And now they're trying to send messages off-world. His second-in-command asked, What now? Commander, Durrell's eyes burned. We stormed the tower. All forces. No mercy. The final wave began at sunset. Dozens of Sarkin soldiers rushed. The tower. Explosives blew the lower doors open. Smoke filled the rooms. Fire spread across the walls. Inside, Rion led the defense. He moved from hallway to hallway, fighting beside Rook and the others. Mira worked with Laz to keep the systems running. Vec led to guards who had switched sides. They had seen enough. It was not a battle. It was survival. The tower shook with each blast. Walls cracked. Lights flickered. Then, just when it seemed they would fall, Laz shouted, I did it. The message is out. Mira rushed to him. You're sure? Yes, I sent full video. All records. Full location. If anyone is listening, they'll know what's happening. Outside, the sky was dark, but above the stars, ships were listening. Back in the control room, Rion stood with Mira. His clothes were torn. His face was bruised, but he was still standing. They'll come soon, she said. Yes, he replied. Will it be enough? Rion looked at the burning yard outside. I don't know, but at least now, the truth is out. We've shown them what humans can do, what we all can do when we stand together. Mira looked at him. You didn't just protect me. You gave us all a reason to fight. Rion didn't reply. He just looked at the stars. The tower still stood, but barely. Walls were black from fire. Doors were bent and broken. Blood marked the floor in too many places. Rion sat on the edge of the control room, holding his injured arm, a simple bandage wrapped around it. He was tired, but not defeated. Mira came over and gave him water. You need rest, she said. Rion shook his head. We'll rest when it's over. Outside, the prison grounds were quiet. No more guards rushed them. No more alarms screamed. Even the smoke was lighter now. But it wasn't peace. It was the calm before the next storm. Laz checked the signal receiver again. We still don't know if anyone got our message, he said. VKK stood behind him. There are colonies nearby. Someone must have picked it up. Les frowned. Even if they did, will they help? That was the real question. In the ruins of the North Wing, Rook helped Seema and Quarren carry injured fighters. They laid them gently near the command tower. A few humans, a few aliens. All of them had chosen to stand against the Sarkans. Rook looked at them and whispered, We can't lose now. Not after this. Above the prison, far beyond the sky, a small fleet moved silently. A human patrol ship, Horizon Flame, had picked up the distress message from Racker 9. The message had spread to nearby ships. It carried proof images, voices, and names, and it told a clear story. The Sarkans were breaking the treaty. They were using a hidden prison planet. They were using brutal laws to crush others. Captain Norn of Horizon Flame looked at the data. His jaw tightened. Set course for Racker 9. He said. His crew paused. Captain, that system is outside our patrol zone. Norn replied. Doesn't matter. We're going. Back on the surface, Mira helped power up the last backup system. We've only got power for 2 more hours, she said. Then everything shuts down. Rion nodded. Then we hold for 2 hours. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed in the sky. Low, steady, growing louder. VKK ran to the window. It's not Sarkin tech. They all looked up. Through the smoke and cloud, a shadow appeared. A sleek black shape, flying low. It moved like a hunter. Fast, quiet, dangerous. Then another. And another. 3 human patrol ships descended from the clouds. They came, Mira whispered. Commander Durrell watched the sky with wide eyes. His officers ran across the control room, shouting orders, but he didn't move. He had seen that kind of ship before, fast, armed, and carrying soldiers trained for combat. We didn't stop the message, he muttered. His second in command turned to him. Do we fight? Durrell knew the truth. The Sarkans had broken interplanetary law. They would be judged for this. There was no winning now. No, Durrell said. We hide what we can and prepare to surrender. But it was already too late. Captain Norin and his team landed near the broken outer wall. Rion met them at the gate, limping slightly, but standing tall. You're Rion? The captain asked. Rion nodded. Yes, you sent the message? I sent the truth. Norin looked around. Smoke still rose. The prisoners were hurt, but standing free. And for the first time, human and alien stood side by side. You held a prison tower with no army. Norin said, we had something stronger. Rion said, hope. Over the next hour, more ships landed. Medical teams rushed to the injured. Engineers restored power. Soldiers spread out and disarmed the last of the Sarkin traps. The prisoners were no longer prisoners. They were survivors. Mira stood near a small fire, wrapping a cloth around her arm. She looked up as Rion walked over. It's really over? She asked. Almost, he replied. The galaxy knows now. Rion nodded. And they'll remember. She looked at him for a long moment. What will you do now? He looked out across the ruined yard. We rebuild. Not just this place, but everything. The trust, the law, the hope. Mira smiled. And you lead it? Rion shook his head. No, I just lit the fire. Others will carry it forward, back. In the sky, the human fleet sent out a message to the central planets. This is the Horizon Flame. Racker 9 has been secured. The prisoners are free. The truth has been confirmed. Requesting tribunal for war crimes by the Sarkin Empire. The message reached far and wide. The galaxy was watching. In a dark chamber on a far Sarkin planet, high leaders met in silence. The news had reached them. Their secret was no longer hidden. One of the elders spoke. This will start war. Another replied, no, this will start change. Back at Racker 9, a new sunrise painted the sky. For the first time, the towers did not cast fear. They cast light. The sun rose again over Racker 9. But this sunrise was different. It was not over a prison anymore. It was over a new beginning. The tower, once a symbol of fear, now stood quiet. No alarms, no chains, no guards shouting commands, just the hum of machines rebuilding and voices filled with hope. Rion stood near the edge of the yard, looking over what was once a battlefield. Now, it was filled with workers, humans, and aliens together rebuilding broken walls, cleaning the wreckage, and setting up new shelters. Mira walked up beside him. No more screams, she said softly. Rion nodded. Only voices building something better. The fleet from the Horizon Flame had not left. They stayed, helping, guiding, and protecting. Their presence gave the survivors a sense of safety. The outside world had not forgotten them. They were no longer lost. Captain Norin met with Rion and the others every day. Plans were made. Supplies were delivered. Communication lines were open. One of the first messages received was from Earth. The message said, to the survivors of Racker 9, your courage has lit a flame across the stars. You are not alone. In the following days, a team from the Interstellar Tribunal arrived. They were there to collect evidence, record testimonies, and investigate the crimes committed by the Sarkin Empire on the prison planet. Vec led them through the broken corridors. This was where they kept prisoners in ice. He said, they called it sleep, but people never woke up the same. The tribunal officials recorded every word. They took samples, pictures, and digital scans. One of them turned to Vec. We will make sure the galaxy knows the truth. Vec nodded. Good. That's all we ever wanted. Rick had joined the rebuilding crew. He no longer wore chains. His hands, once bruised from labor, now held tools used to build, not destroy. Seema worked beside him. I still can't believe it, she said. We're really free. Rick smiled. Freedom is strange at first, but I think we'll get used to it. They laughed quietly and got back to work. A ceremony was held 3 days later. It was not grand. No loud music, no fancy clothes, just people standing together. Rion stood in front, with Mira, Vec, Rook, and others behind him. He looked at the faces in the crowd, some human, some alien. All tired but proud. I don't know the right words. Rion said, I'm not a leader or a hero. I was just a man trying to survive. He paused. But then I saw others hurt, broken, forgotten, and I realized surviving wasn't enough. We had to rise. He looked around. You all did that. Not me, you. There was silence, then applause, then cheers. It wasn't just for Rion. It was for every person who had stood up, every voice that had said no more. Later that evening, as the sky turned orange, Rion sat alone at the edge of the broken wall. Mira joined him, holding two cups of warm tea. Quiet now, she said. Yes, Rion replied. For once, quiet is good. She handed him a cup. You should come with us. Where? We're going to the outer colonies. There are others still suffering. We can help them. Rion smiled slightly. I thought I was done fighting. You're not, Mira said. You're just getting started. The next day, ships arrived from across the galaxy. Not warships, relief ships, from Earth, from the allied moons. Even from planets once ruled by the Sarkans, they brought food, water, medicine, and technology. But most of all, they brought hope. One small child, barely old enough to speak, walked up to Rion. Did you save us? The child asked. Rion knelt down. No, he said gently. We all save each other. The Interstellar Tribunal sent out a broadcast weeks later. Their voice echoed across the stars. After investigation, we declare that the Sarkin Empire is guilty of crimes against multiple species. Raccoon will forever be remembered as a place of pain, but also of courage. The galaxy listened and remembered. A statue was built in the center of the old prison yard. It showed a human standing side by side with an alien, both holding a flame together. At the bottom, a simple message from the ashes. We rise. Rion finally stood at the boarding ramp of the relief ship. Mira waited at the top. Behind her were survivors ready to begin new lives. You coming? She asked. Rion looked back one last time. The towers, now painted white. The yard, now garden. The prison, now home. Then he stepped forward. I'm ready. And so, the man who once fought alone walked into a future filled with others. The law had once been brutal, but Rion and his people had rewritten it not with weapons, but with truth, unity, and courage. Their story would be told across the stars, not as a tale of war, but as proof that even in the darkest corners of space, humanity can light the way.